Rising Senior Parent Night. My name is Mrs. Wilson. I serve as the department chair for our counseling department. And we are pleased to have you guys all here with us tonight on this sunny evening. So I can tell you guys really care about your rising seniors. We have a jam-packed agenda for you all, so we will definitely move through it pretty quickly, but this is being recorded. So just know that in the next week or so, you will have access to the link and you can review back, take notes as you need be, okay? So go ahead and open us up. I'm going to welcome Mr. Scotty to start us out in prayer and begin our program. Give him a round of applause.
Hi everyone. So I thought it'd be fitting to do a Jesuit prayer today for June 2nd. O holy, ever-living God, open the eyes of our hearts so that we might see ourselves and our circumstances with renewed clarity and humility. Please grant us strength and patience, wisdom, and detachment from our own opinions so that we might truly seek your holy will in all things. Give us the grace to see with your eyes and to love all those that have encountered with your most sacred heart. We ask all these things through Christ our Lord. Amen. Okay. Technical difficulties. You see that? Okay, so we're just kicking off the application season. As you know, guidelines to help you support your students' application process. We'll talk about that. Key deadlines and summer preparation tasks. And then following up with the piecing together the financial puzzle. So we're aiming to help reframe our perspective and to help your family thrive, not just survive. During this whole college search and application process, I just wanted to add that the goal is not for your students to get into the most famous school. We're looking to get into the right fit, as we talked about before. The fit academically, financially, socially, personally, and then so they'll be well prepared as they succeed wherever they land. Okay, so I want to just see if we know can answer these questions. Approximately how many colleges and universities in the U.S., including private, public, community college, technical schools? Anybody want to take a guess?
B, C, D.
B? It's actually C, okay? And just for the record, we have about 3,000 public and private universities and about just over 1,000 community colleges around. So give or take, I think the numbers are just a little bit over 4,000. Okay, how about how many four-year colleges and universities admit less than 33% of their applicants? 100, 430, 500, or 875? I heard it's actually 100. So that makes more room for students to go. These are some of the selective schools you can think about, like a lot of the Ivy League schools, some of the UC schools. So yeah, 100 schools. Okay, so this is just for us, for Bellarmine. What do you think, maybe you already know, what's the #1 state college students will attend, or seniors that just graduated? Anyone know? Yes, University of Washington. This year was University of Washington with 21, I think, students went there. And close second, well, not too close, but Seattle University had about 14. Okay, what about outside of the state? #1. It's a tie, actually.
Utah.
Somebody says Utah, okay. Boise, anything else? That had some, but Oregon State. So Oregon State and Boise State. And one thing I just wanted to add, some other data. So we had 219 seniors, okay? Approximately 73 will be attending a school in Washington. And those, I think there's like about 15 of those schools in Washington. So 73. 28 students will be headed to one of our 6 undergraduate exchange, Western undergraduate exchange programs, WUI schools, including Oregon State and Boise, okay? And then 43 students are on their way to one of the 11 Jesuit schools that span, by the way, they span the entire country, so all the way, we're talking Santa Clara, USD, Seattle U, all the way to College of the Holy Cross, and Fordham, Boston College, so all over the country. Creighton in the Midwest, and Marquette, so some great schools. So 43 students, so all over the place. And just some of the schools here, as you can see, that I've included already, but 250 schools that students are going to. So your students are next. Okay, Mrs. Mancuso is going to come up now.
Okay, so I am going to be talking about finishing up the junior year, which is really soon. So we talk to our students about the holistic review process, and we like to use this acronym TREAT, which stands for transcripts, recommendations, essay, application, and test scores. We like to remind students that they are the treat. Colleges are trying to get to know the whole person, and each component of the application is kind of like the ingredients that help colleges get to know your student and tell their story. So transcripts tell colleges about the student's academic journey and growth. Recommendations reveal how others see your students' character, contributions, and potential. Essay gives colleges a chance to hear your students' voice and learn what matters to them. Application showcases their experiences, activities, accomplishments, and interests. And test scores, if they choose to submit them, provide just another piece of their academic profile. So the application process has begun, and these are some things that your student has already done. They have met with their counselor for their junior meeting, created a Common App application or account, taken the SAT and or ACT, or will soon if they decide to do so. We highly recommend that they do. Started the Common App essay. This is something they have started in their English class and should be leaving for summer break with like a very rough draft. And then this is something that they'll want to continue to work on over summer break. And then we want them, or they should have already done this, asked a junior core teacher to write a letter of recommendation. This we told them to do in May or by May. So this is a great opportunity to ask your student, like, who did you ask to do your recommendation? And if they tell you they have not asked yet, they will want to do that before they leave on break. And then completed the teacher and counselor break sheets, and we have asked that to be done before they go on summer break. That is something that we have emailed to them. You can also find it on our resource board under the counselor tile, and if you scroll towards the bottom, you will see both of those. All right, students have been starting to work on their Common App essay in their American Lit class this spring. And some of the goals for this are for them to read some quality Common App essays, strategize their own defining qualities. This is something we've also talked with them about in their junior meeting. Choose the right story using Common App prompts, and to write a first draft before summer, which again, we hope that they continue to work on over summer break. When students are writing their Common App essay, we want them to start brainstorming now what they want their colleges to know about them. So these are some prompt examples, sharing about their background, identity, and interest or talent, lessons we take away from obstacles faced, such as a challenge or setback, reflecting on a time where you questioned or challenged a belief or idea, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth, and describe, or another option is to describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose track of time. And then as students come back from summer break and into the start of their senior year, which is going to be busy, they will be continuing to work on their college essay. The counseling department will be hosting Happy Hour Wednesdays, which will be happening in the Kateri Conference Room every Wednesday, starting September through November, from 2:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. So this is after school. And we will be there to assist students and help support them with whatever they need. And then in their senior English classes, students will also continue to work on their college essay. Students should bring their drafted essay, which again, they will have worked on over summer break. And then this time will be provided for peer reviews and revisions with teachers-led instruction, and their college essay should be completed by October 15th. We are also here, of course, in happy hours, but they can also make an appointment with any of us where we can help give them feedback or edits, or if they just want to read it to us. And also, if you would like any college writing resources, please feel free to reach out to us. We will also be providing those in the counseling newsletters. All right, and now I'm going to introduce Rachel Ford.
Hello, thank you again for being here this evening. I'm going to walk us through what the application process actually looks like. So what are the steps, and specifically what are the steps that we go through with students and accompany you as parents here at Bellarmine. So as Maddie referenced, there's some things we've asked them to do over the summer. We've asked them to get started on all of these things already, but over the summer is a time when students should be working on some to-do list items. The whole to-do list from freshman year all the way through the spring of senior year is on the counseling tile on the resource page. I think all of us will mention that a few times. That counseling tile on My Bellarmine, that's where a lot of resources are. So if you haven't been on My Bellarmine and clicked on the counseling tile to see those resources, it would be a great idea to look at that, maybe when you get home tonight, maybe show your student where that is. I can't tell you the number of emails we answer with a link to the counseling tile on the My Bellarmine website. So the biggest pieces of that, as Maddie mentioned, working on that essay, the Common App account. Before they meet with us in the fall, they need to match their Common App account with their Naviance account. I'll talk more about both of those. And they need to do that before they meet with us so that we have their permission, your permission, to share information with colleges. And then they also are going to fill out something called the College Application Plan. And I'll talk more about that as we move forward. So Common App, what is the Common App? This did not exist when I was applying to college many years ago, and I'm guessing for those of you that attended college as well, Common App did not exist. It's awesome. It's a centralized platform where students can fill out one application and apply to over 1,000 colleges. There may still be some supplemental writing asked from our students, right? So they write one essay, the essay Maddie was talking about, but then they also might be asked to write a supplementary essay or two, maybe a short answer. Particularly some of our more elite schools or more competitive schools will ask for more writing from students typically. However, the Common App is they only have to enter all of their grades once. They only have to submit a transcript, an unofficial transcript once. Their activities list is done once. So it's a really great opportunity to be able to have a centralized location for all of this for our students. They should already have an account on Common App. We walked through this with them already, earlier in the spring. They can add information to this. They can add demographic information, profile information to this right now. They can't start adding schools to it until August 1st. So if they want to wait until August 1st to get more information loaded up and get started on some of those pieces for Common App, that's fine. But colleges, they can start adding which colleges they want to apply to through Common App starting on August 1st. The unofficial transcript, can be found in my Bellarmine under their progress tab. They should have a list of activities or a resume already started in Naviance, so they can download both of those things, maybe print them out, have them right next to them. That'll make filling out this Common App a lot easier for them. They'll learn their social security number as well, hopefully. That's what I learned mine. Some colleges don't accept Common App. So for Boise State, for example, a really popular out-of-state choice for our students this year, does not use the Common App. So students would apply directly on the Boise State website. That's totally fine. And there are some students who might choose to apply to other schools, even schools that use the Common App, directly on their websites because perhaps they wouldn't have to pay the application fee, or they get a link from a school and the school says, hey, we'd really like you to apply, we'll waive your application fee if you apply this way. So looking at the admissions websites for the schools your child is interested in and keeping some of those details in mind. Again, Common App is this great resource. Some schools don't use it, and some schools there might be an advantage to applying directly through the school's application itself on their website. What is the application plan? So where are they going to apply? The application plan is a form. I'll show you what it looks like on the next slide. We use that. It's our primary tool. It's a contract between students and their counselor. It's how we know where they are applying and where we should send the things that we send for students. So transcripts, letters of recommendation, all of those types of things, we have to send those out for students, and we need to know where they go. So this form tells us which schools students are applying to, which deadlines they would like to apply by, right? So that we do our jobs on time. And it makes sure we ask students to fill this out in rank order so we know what are the priorities. And that we can also help students rank those. We can help students organize their lists. We can talk about what's a likely school, what's a reach school, those kinds of things. But starting from this central document that looks like this is incredibly helpful for us. We sign the bottom, students sign the bottom, so we know that students have communicated with us where we should send their information. If they add schools, we need to know, so they need to fill out a new form. The students sometimes come in a panic. Oh, last minute, I've decided I want to apply early to Boston College. Well, okay, but that involves a lot more than me just sending documents to Boston College for you by tomorrow, because Boston College, for example, asks for more letters of recommendation than the Common App does. So these are things where we really do ask them to use some of those executive functioning skills that they've been working on over the 3 years here, and to plan ahead and to really look at the details. Some of the questions we ask here, right? Does this school use the Common App? How many letters of rec do they need? What will I be sending my test scores? These are things we really want them to research the schools on their own and figure out before they come to that meeting with us in the fall. I always tell students, we ask them to have a list of 9. That's how many spots there are on that application plan. I just told my juniors yesterday, if you come to our meeting in the fall with 4 on the list, we can add to it together. If you come with 12, we can narrow it down together, but you can't come with 0. You need to show me that you've done some work, that you've had some conversations with your family, that you've done some reflection yourself and figured out what are some of the things I really want out of a college experience, so what makes sense to go on this list. And then I can help brainstorm, hey, you've got these 3 schools. Here's the things that I see in common there. Let's look at some schools that are a more likely fit for you in terms of GPA and test scores. Let's look at some reach schools. Let's push it a little bit and see where we think, let's dream bigger maybe for some of our students that have a hard time with that. So we can help add and narrow, but we can't start the list for our students. So we really need you to push them to start thinking about these questions over the summer as they're trying to build a list. As I referenced, right, we asked them to have about 9 schools and a mix of likely, target, and reach. Unfortunately, so Maddie talked about treat, right, and the holistic look at applications. That's absolutely true. And to know where a student fits in terms of likely, target, and reach, really the only hard and fast data we have are those test scores and the GPA. So even though every meeting I have with your student about college, I remind them that they are far more than a GPA and a test score, and we really do mean that, and colleges really do mean that. To build this list and know where they fit in terms of the acceptance rates, that is how we will determine the target, likely, and reach. So your students should look at common data sets for their school. If you Google UW, common data set, University of Utah, common data set, Loyola Chicago, common data set, that will give you some of this information. Average accepted GPAs, what the range of test scores for those accepted students are, as well as the acceptance rate, right? That's one of the things that after we look at a GPA and a test score, I ask my students to go and look at what that acceptance rate is, right? As Chris referenced, right? Only 100 schools that are going to accept less than 33% of students that apply. But we still need to know, hey, yeah, your GPA and your test score put you at the top of this school's list. And we know only 8% of out-of-state students get into this school, right? So that's going to be a reach no matter what your GPA and your test score are. So does that make sense to folks, how we would determine that? Okay. One of the things on that comment, on that application plan are what deadline do students want to apply for? So this is just a brief highlight of what those different deadlines mean. We go into more detail on this at our fall meeting with you all, the senior parent night. But briefly, these are the 4 types of deadlines. And you can see that that early decision deadline is the binding deadline. So that's the deadline where students would apply, they sign a contract, and we actually are asked to sign a contract as well that says if this student gets in, this is where they will be attending. This is an offer that comes in before financial aid information comes in. So something that really you need to consider and talk with your student about is whether an early decision deadline makes sense for them. Early action, that's going to be an earlier deadline. Earlier information, you're going to know sooner whether you got in, but there's not that commitment to go. Regular decision is that kind of most common application deadline. Really varies, but typically right at the beginning of the year in January, and allows your student more time to perhaps work on their essays, work on their materials. And then rolling admissions, something like a Wazoo, they have a rolling admissions process, so you apply, and they review your application as they receive them until they fill their class. So typically about 6 weeks after you apply, you'll get a decision. This fall, students were getting those decisions quite quickly, like a 3-week turnaround. Oh, sorry. One point, I just want to make sure that people are seeing the bottom of this slide. No matter what deadline your student is going to apply by, we expect all their applications to be submitted before we leave at the end of November. We recommend students like, hey, before we leave for Thanksgiving break or before we leave for Christmas break, wouldn't you like to have this off of your to-do list? So even if you're not going to necessarily apply for the early decision deadline, you can send your application in. If the deadline is January 15th, let's send it in by November 30th and just close out this process so that you can then focus on finals, focus on having a really successful first semester of senior year, and then hopefully also having a little more fun. So, Naviance I referenced before. This is our college and career readiness platform for students and parents. So if you have not yet logged into Naviance, we really recommend taking a look at it. If you can't find your password or you need to reset it, please just let us know. We are happy to get that to you. It's very easy for us to do. But there's a lot of really helpful tools, search tools, information that's specific to Bellarmine around acceptance rates and GPAs and test scores. Our favorite tool, scattergrams, are a part of Naviance. I can see some people have seen them because of those familiar smiles. So that's going to plot out data from Bellarmine around average accepted GPA, average accepted test score at those specific schools that you're looking at. But it's, again, one of the things that's nice is you're not just looking at that national data, you're looking at Bellarmine specific data for that school. There's also really great career exploration tools, so personality typing and different career exploration tools as well. And that's where we manage the college application process for students. So that is the tool that we will use to send transcripts, to send our evaluations and recommendations of students, and to send the teacher recommendations as well. So, a little bit more on standardized testing as a part of our application process. Testing has changed a lot as well. I remember, again, like 25 plus years ago, it was a really big deal what my SAT score was, and that was going to be, you know, that and my GPA and my essay, that's how I was going to get into college. That's not really the case anymore. So hopefully, that's a big sigh of relief for students and parents. Oh, okay. Because not all schools require testing. A lot of this fell away even before the pandemic, but then the pandemic brought this to a head that schools found out, I know it will be a surprise to all of you, that one day at one test was not an accurate predictor of a student's academic success at a college. And so a lot of colleges have stopped requiring a test score, and some are even test blind, so they will not accept a test score. The two biggest terms here, right, test blind, meaning they aren't even going to look at it. You can try to submit it, but they won't take a look at it. And then test optional, being you have a choice whether to submit that test score or not. That treat model, right, it will be a treat. They won't look at it negatively if you don't submit a test score, but they will consider your test score if you decide to submit it. And you can see some of the common schools that our students apply to and where they fall there. If your student wants to really focus on a test score as a way to make their application shine, we would encourage you to consider some test prep. A lot of free resources online. Khan Academy has great free resources. College Essay Guide has great free resources. We have two things that we do here, a boot camp, which will happen in August. And then we are offering this partnership with Air Tutors as well. Excuse me. And that's new, and it's a small group online system. And I believe that link is live, and it's also over on the acrylic when you walked in, and it will be in the newsletter that comes out as well. Our in-school SAT is coming up on October 14th. So signups are going to be in September. That's for seniors only. Test scores will be available 2 to 4 weeks after that deadline, so mid-November. Typically, this is just fine for those early those early action deadlines. So I know a lot of students were worried about that yesterday when we spoke to juniors, but typically schools know if you took that October SAT, the score is coming, and they're willing to be flexible on when that comes in, as long as the rest of the student's application is turned in. If you want to register for an SAT that's sooner than October, or outside of school, sat.org, and if you would prefer your student to take an ACT, or if they would prefer an ACT, that's act.org as well. Seats are really limited for both tests. We've had families drive as far as, up to, excuse me. So we've had students and families drive down to Oregon, Olympia, up to Bellingham to take these tests because seating is really limited. On test day, students will be given the option to say, where would you like to send these tests for free? We suggest not sending those free test scores because we want to see what score your student received and then advise them whether or not to send that score. So looking at those scattergrams I referenced before, looking at the data sets that I referenced before as well, basically we will talk with your student. If it's going to make your application shine and improve your application, absolutely we would encourage you to send it. If it's not going to do that and the school is test optional, let's not send your test score. And that, again, it's not going to look negative. It's not going to look like you're trying to hide something. Schools just will not consider it at a test optional school. Okay, I'm going to toss it over to Tawana to talk about how we're paying for school.
All right, we're good. All right, how are we doing? Good? Okay, show of hands, how many of you all, this is your first rising senior graduate getting, ooh, there's a lot of you guys. Oh, we have you guys. That's so great. Okay, so I'm excited for you guys, and we are really here to help guide you through this process. So please utilize us, and I'm excited for you guys to be here today. But yeah, let's talk about how do we pay for college. There's lots of ways to do that. And so we don't want this to feel defeatist. We want this to be encouraging, but we want to help kids get to school. So this slide is just a brief overview to kind of show you a realistic view of what it looks like to attend colleges these days. Yeah, go ahead, take that in. Yeah, okay. And as you will see on the bottom of our slide, this is from 2024 stats, okay? So yesterday's price is not today's price, okay? So just really take that in and really consider that, because this is what our kids are looking at. They are having to decide if they want to commit to this 1 year in-state price or that out-of-state price over 4 years, okay? And so these are some of the things that they are making decisions about and that you all as a family will now have to start considering. What makes sense for your student and for your household, and what can you financially commit to? Are we okay on this? Go away? Okay, go away. So some things to consider. Just so you know that on average, just 42% of students graduate in 4 years, all right? 42% are actually getting this done in 4 years and actually staying to that previous price, all right? If we go longer than 4 years, that price continues to grow, okay? So on average, 97 of our bachelor degree earners graduate within 6 years, okay? So those numbers are kind of doubling, okay? And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, sometimes students go to a school and they find that that's not their best fit and they transfer. Some students are not having access to their required courses, so that can extend their time, all right? Or sometimes finances is a barrier, and so they have to take time off or work and then go back, okay? So these are things that we want us to really be mindful of and considerate of. Also, we want to be honest about the fact that we talk to our students about alternative pathways, all right? Sometimes going to a 4-year is not the best fit for your student. And so that's something that we want to be honest about, talk to them about, and have them consider other options. And so another very viable pathway is junior college. If you look at that little price, that $3,000 is a fraction of what we showed on this other slide, okay? And going to a junior college is a great pathway for that student who might need a little bit more time to develop, that egg that needs a little bit more time to mature, on that student who might want a little bit more time to get their grades improved before they transfer off, or just want a little bit more time at home, okay? So typically our students who haven't quite decided on what they want to study for a major, as you guys know, those first 2 years, you're generally just doing your general recs. And so those classes you can take most anywhere. And so you can get those same general recs for those 2 years at a junior college and save money before you transfer to a 4-year. So just another pathway, okay? And then also, we want to just encourage you guys, if you have not already, to start talking about finances with your student. It's kind of hard conversation to talk to our students when we're talking about their dream school and they haven't had that realistic conversation of if that is possible for them, okay? If that is even a possibility for them to attend to their dream school. So we want to encourage you guys to have those conversations. What does it look like? What are you committing to your student? It's not uncommon for families to have those conversations about, we'll do your undergrad, you have to do your graduate. Or it's not uncommon for families to have that conversation with their students to say, we can pay up to this amount, and anything outside of that, we're going to have to look at scholarships or financial aid. It's not uncommon for families to have those conversations with their students to say, at this point, we're looking at in-state, right? And if you could get some additional scholarships, we can look at out-of-state. Those are real conversations that you need to have with your students so that they know realistically what their options are and that they're not disappointed when that school comes in and it's not a viable option. Okay? So consider, how much are you willing to pay? How much are you willing to commit to this degree? And what role should your student have in paying to that? Right? What is their buy-in to this degree as well? Okay? So this is a quick little overview we wanted to show you guys of just getting beyond that sticker price. So this is one of our sister schools. This is Regis University, that's in Illinois. As you can see, their tuition and fees sticker price for 1 year is $45,000. With them being a Jesuit fellow school, they offer our students really good Jesuit education scholarships, okay? So you can see here, this particular student got $26,000, that was stackable onto that. And then outside of them being a very strong student with a strong GPA, they were offered additional merit scholarship. So you can see how now Regis at one point was 45, but with this additional support of scholarships and merit, they were able to get that down to 13,000, okay? And so now this out-of-state school possibly now seems a little bit more reasonable, and it's comparable to now to what you might be paying for an in-state cost, right? So it is doable, but it might have you looking outside of schools that you probably considered before, and maybe being a little bit more exploratory to different school options, okay? So looking at some of our Jesuit schools is another good option. And then there's other common ways that most of our families and students are looking to pay for college. So for personal ways, you have savings, investments, 529 plans, private loans like credit unions, sometimes can have better rates than some of the federal loans. Institutional, so coming directly from the college, most of our students, just by having a strong GPA, will get some kind of offering of merit. Better the GPA, more the merit. But typically having over a 3.5 will get you some kind of offering, okay? School-specific scholarships, so this will be dependent upon the school, but they will have a variety of scholarships that they can offer too that you'll be automatically considered for when your student applies. But it's also a great idea for students to go onto that school scholarship page and look at which ones are not automatically offered outside of merit, okay? And they can apply for those as well. We've even seen students get scholarships just for visiting the school. It's $1,000, but $1,000 can go a long way, okay? So look for all those opportunities. And then there's federal. You will apply for the FAFSA. We do encourage our students to do that. I know some of you guys think about your own finances, might think you might not qualify, but you won't know what you qualify for unless you apply. It is a free application. They do review the last 2 years of your financial income, and there has been changes over the years. And so if you're somebody who applied in the past and didn't really feel like it was helpful, I would encourage you to try it again. It's one big pot of money that everybody's going to be applying for to try to get a little bit. It opens up October 1st, and so the earlier you apply, the better your chances of getting some of that money, okay? And then there's loan offers. You can always push back with financial aid and with your school to advocate for yourself for additional funds if you feel like that FAFSA is not really a good glimpse of what your financial makeup is. And then work study. That's also something that can be offered to students, but again, that's through FAFSA, so you have to apply in order to get offered work study, okay? And so just to recap again, we will be having a financial aid night. We will have our PLU Dean of Financial Aid coming and speaking just from the college perspective of what financial aid looks like, how do you apply, and what opportunities are there. That will be on September 15th during our senior parent night. And then we, just like I noted already, FAFSA will open on October 1st. And so for that 26-27 school year, you want to be looking out for that so you can apply when that comes out. And then we will be offering a FAFSA step-by-step workshop. This will be a virtual session, and that's on October 6th. So for those who have not had a lot of familiarity with filling out the FAFSA or have a lot of questions, or if this is your first time, that would be a good opportunity for you to come prepared to just walk step-by-step on how to fill out the FAFSA. Okay, so you don't have any issues with that. And so this is just a slide that kind of goes over a variety of scholarships that you can access. And it's really asking you to take consideration of your student. There's no magical database that's going to be available to you. The same thing that we're going to encourage you guys to do is the same thing we do. We Google, we search databases, we consider different businesses, organizations, and considering your student. What are their strengths? What are their things that they've been involved in? And how can you find a scholarship? There are scholarships for everything. If you're right-handed, there's a scholarship. If you're left-handed, there's a scholarship. If you wear glasses, there's a scholarship. Okay, so really think outside the box. But there's a couple of ones that we have on here, like the WUI that was mentioned earlier, the Washington Undergrad Exchange. You can Google that and see what states apply to that and what schools are offered under that WUI scholarship. It is GPA and program specific, but if your school is on there that your student is interested in, the program that they're interested in, and if they meet the GPA requirement, this is something that they could qualify for, okay? And then there's federal grants. Lottery I thought was interesting on here. Did you guys know that Washington State Lottery supports the Washington College Grant Fund? Okay, so if you're buying lottery tickets, you're supporting that. Okay, but that's also on here. Okay, financial need. You can look at major specifics. So if you have a student who's thinking medical or sports or finance, engineering, you can find scholarships specific for that. Okay, ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. There are tons of scholarships out there. Females, boys. There are scholarships out there, okay? So just really get out there and search. It's helpful for you guys as families to start supporting your students with that now. I'll just encourage you that because there are so many out there that it can be overwhelming. And so it's a good idea to even use an alternative email when you're signing up for those because it can flood your emails with all these scholarship offers. But it's also a good idea to just kind of know where they are and when their due dates are coming up. Because when you get into the to the application season, a lot of things are happening, and it's the worst to miss a scholarship that your student was perfect for just because you missed the deadline. Okay, so you can support your students by researching those now, and having a list of what those qualifications are for those. Okay. And again, like I've emphasized, there are scholarships out there for all kinds of things. All right, so it's not just low income, and it doesn't mean you have to have a 4.0 in order to find a scholarship for your student. All right, and you want to apply as many as possible. So having that essay prepared and repurposing that for scholarship purposes is a great idea. And also those letters of rec that we're encouraging your students to ask for, they can also reutilize those letters of rec for scholarships too. They just need to reach out to us and we will repurpose those for them too. They do not have access to their letters of rec, just to know. We keep those, and so we will send those on their behalf to anywhere they need to go. Okay. And then also it's a good idea to pursue a lot of the regional and local scholarships. There are a ton of national ones, but those tend to be really competitive. And so we have a list of a lot of local ones that we encourage students to do. We highlight those in the fall so students are aware of them. But places like the Elks is a community scholarship that they give out a lot of money. Cheney gives out a lot of money for those. So please reach out if you have questions about those, but be checking or encouraging your student to check their email because we will highlight and advertise those scholarships as those come up as well. Okay. And then again, newsletters from us will have a list and links. Naviance has a link on there of scholarships, as well as the Common App. So when your student prepares their Common App application, there's a tab on there that has scholarships that will be specific to them too, that they will also offer them to check out. And then just a reminder that you're gonna use that essay. You can always tweak it, reuse it for any scholarship applications as well. But think about where you work. They have scholarships. Think about where you grocery shop. Costco has scholarships. Our student this past year got how much for that Costco scholarship? Yeah, to Seattle U. I want to say like 10,000. That's off the top of my head. Your favorite drink, Coca-Cola has scholarships. Okay, so think about that, but think about usually big organizations have scholarships, and so you want to reach out to those. Okay. This I want to review too, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, but we highlighted this last year with our 2026 class of the wall gap and direct admissions opportunities. This is something that you will start seeing happening across the nation. More and more states are adopting this. Washington is not uncommonly a part of this. And so what this allows our students to do, that we will on their behalf send their information to colleges. This will allow colleges to pre-qualify them for admission. So without them even having to fill out an application, they will get offers from these schools saying, hey, based on your GPA, based on your basic demographics and qualifications coming from Bellarmine, we think you would be a great student for our school and we want to offer you a tentative admission offer. Okay? This is a benefit to our students, all right? Without them filling out an application, paying a fee, they could potentially be offered tentative admission offers from these schools. Okay, so for direct admissions, they would need to have at least a 3.3 minimum, and those are the schools that they would get offers from. And for wall gap, it's a 3.0. Okay? The only thing we're gonna ask you guys to do, and we will announce this when it comes up, is that you have to just opt in. So you'd have to say, it's okay for us to send your information to these schools on your behalf. And then once you do that, we will do that ahead of time. This will typically happen in September, October. So it will be nice for your seniors who haven't applied yet to start getting some offers and know at least they are guaranteed to get into one school. Okay? They will have to follow up and then take the steps to accept the offer, but it is just a tentative offer to say, yes, I know I'm getting into these schools. Okay? So that is something new that we started last year, and we'll continue this, but more and more states are adopting this. All right. And then just a final thought I want to leave with you all is that really this is about finding the best fit for your student. This can look a lot of different ways, and I hope you highlighted that. But it's really a process in that you're going to walk with your students to help them find their best fit. And we are really here to support. There is no magic formula, though. All right? I don't have a special connect at your school. All right? It's really about that treat that we talked about earlier. That's what's in your students' control to help them get into the school that they are excited about. Right? So we are here to support them. We're here to help them put their best application efforts first. And then it's really a two-way street of schools accepting your student and your student accepting the schools that are the best fit for them. Okay? But we will guarantee you this. If your student wants to go to college, we will get them to college. All right? Does that sound okay? Okay. Yes. All right, so with that in mind, we also introduced this last year. We thought it'd be helpful for you guys to hear from some of the parents that have already done this work, okay? To give you some tips and tricks, especially since there's such a big room of you guys who are new to this. So I would like to invite our parent panel to the floor. We have Adrian Joyce, Julia Casada, and Susie Gray. Please come on to the stage. Let's give them a round of applause. So Adrian Joyce, she is a mother of 3. She has already graduated 2, her most recent this past Sunday, and she has a rising junior. And she also sits on our board of directors. And then Julie Casada, she also has 3 that are coming through here. 1 that she graduated in 2025. She has a rising junior and an incoming freshman. Rising senior, sorry. And then an incoming freshman. And then Susie Gray, she has graduated 6 Bellarmine grads. Okay, 6. So she's done this, okay? So we can trust her on this. And then she also supports Bellarmine through the ACE working here on campus. So we are grateful for them to take the time and volunteer their expertise. All right, thank you, ladies. All right, so my first question for the panel, and anyone who feels so inclined to answer it, feel free. But what was your role in helping your student meet deadlines and stay organized coming into the senior college application season?
So what I like to tell families, and what I did with my son last year, was we had a once-a-week meeting. So for us, that was Sunday nights. It's our family dinner night. We know there's no sports games or something that's going to take him away. And so we just met on Sundays. And on Sundays, we would look at his list, be it that came from his board or that he had or that I had made during the week. And so I just kind of kept myself a list of things as I would read things for Bellarmine, like I need to check and see if he did this, that. Or I knew he had deadlines. But I didn't bug him during the week. He knew I would only ask him about it on Sundays, and then through the week he could work on the stuff, and then we'd check in on Sundays and say, all right, where are you at? Where did you get? And I think it helped a lot with our relationship too. I feel like as a parent, there's a lot of nagging my kids on. I mean, the Invisalign alone is like a daily nag. So one more thing, and I wanted it to be a joy of his journey, of him figuring it out himself, but knowing that I was there, but not in his face too much. So that worked really well for us.
I think that's great advice, and she gave it last year, so I wanted her to go first. But Similarly, I think having kind of your own list of the deadlines so that you know and you're not asking them. That way you'll be able to see that they're doing the right steps and having that knowledge rather than saying, what's due next? You know, you'll already have those answers and just be ready to support rather than, again, nag some more.
And I would add that's an excellent answer. Every child is different. I've had one of our children who was just totally dialed in and did it pretty much on her own. And others need more hand-holding. And you know your child best. You're the expert on your children. You've known them for 17, 18 years. So really key into what their strengths are, their weaknesses, and follow up as needed. But I love your advice. That's great.
So, no helicopter.
No helicopter.
I still get to talk to him every Sunday in college because he doesn't text or anything else, but we still have our Sunday date. So if you have a boy who doesn't really communicate, it's been great for me while he's in college.
Yeah, you built in a habit now, so you have a Sunday check-in. I like that. All right, next question. How did your family support your student in making their final college decision?
I'll say I also have my youngest is actually a rising senior, so I'm going to be doing this process with you. Although I did have one that just graduated on Sunday, so I think I'm still trying to catch my breath. But just to give you a little background, my husband and I graduated from Notre Dame, and then he went there also for graduate school, so that was kind of always part of our family, and we, not necessarily on purpose, but definitely indoctrinated our children on that school. And we were thrown for a loop with our oldest. She's at Tufts right now, which is on the East Coast, and it has a admittance rate that's lower than Notre Dame's. And to me, there's like no reason that she should have gotten in there. There's not a lot of huge ties between Bellarmine and Tufts, and not a lot of kids apply there or go there. And so when we went through the process the first time, we were like, oh, we know what it takes to get into Notre Dame. We knew what's going on, and we had guided her through her whole life. And we had her apply early, and I'm like, oh, she's gonna get in, and then we'll just see what else we can do. And then guess what? That was not what happened, and it threw us for a loop. She didn't even get deferred to the regular crowd. She got denied flat out early. So we applied early, and she didn't get an early acceptance. She got an early denial, and we totally changed our plan. And then Ainsley just graduated, and big sister didn't get into Notre Dame. So of course, what does she want to try to do? She wants to try to get into Notre Dame, and we're like, no, please just cast a wide net. And we encouraged that, but it was kind of already too late. We'd already indoctrinated them since they were little, and she did cast a wide net, but then her journey was totally different. She got in early to Notre Dame, and she got early into Georgetown. She had a list of maybe 15 that she didn't apply to, but then she only applied to less than 5. She was like living the dream. And there are some differences between them, but not a lot, and some difference between our youngest too, but not a lot. And it's not logical, and it could be very illogical in the end. And so be prepared for that. And so our kids, when we had the panel last year, there were some parents who were like sports parents, and their kids were going to play sports in college. Like, we aren't that family, so some things I may say to you may be totally irrelevant. But if your child maybe is like trying to shoot for the start and see, they've worked really hard and they want to see where they can go, like that's kind of what our journey has been, and seeing what it looks like and what twists and turns can occur. So I just wanted to say, one thing that you could do, maybe you were a high-achieving parent and you went to schools that were hard to get into, like, take that knowledge and then throw it to the side. Because it's different. Like, I think Ainsley sent us a meme, I think it was like 42% acceptance rate to Notre Dame when we applied. Like, they just flipped a coin to let us in. But these days, it is like so much harder to get in there. And the kids are all hardworking, and they take all these brilliant classes, and they're doing all these wonderful things. Like, they are all worthy. Like, God has a good and perfect plan for every one of your children. I'll say that again. God has a good and perfect plan for every one of your children. And, we're a Jesuit Catholic school, and we believe in that. At the same time, we may not know what that good and perfect plan is.
It's a mystery.
So just be ready for that journey. But, like, getting to the question of, like, how did your family support your student in making their final college decision? So with my oldest, we had been thrown for a loop, and then we applied early, and it was, it didn't go how we thought, and then we had to regroup. And so she then was at this point where she could do an early decision to Tufts or to Boston College. And Boston, they're both hard to get into, but like Boston College was like slightly easier to get into than Tufts. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, she didn't get into Notre Dame, but we have like 3 degrees from that school, and they still like turned her way. I was like, you need to go for the easier route. Like, you need to think logically and go that route. And but I had to let her make that decision, because what I had led her to was wrong, right? Like, I thought, she'll get into Notre Dame. Like, she's worked hard. We know what it takes. Like, so I had to let her make that decision in the end. And in my mind, I was like, I think you should do BC, And then she chose Tufts, and then that's where she went in the end. Lo and behold, she did get into BC regular decision, but then remember Ainsley, who's going to Notre Dame, got in early. She was waitlisted to BC. Like, there's not necessarily going to be like, there's a few years in between, but only 3 years. Like, it didn't change vastly. So just, you may lack logic. And if you have a high achieving child, this may be when they experience rejection. And it might not even be a deserved rejection. They're all so hardworking and beautiful and intentional children. So in the end, I had to let her make that final decision, which I think led her to Tufts in the end.
I think that was great. I'll just say briefly, I work with students too during college coaching. So what I tell my students always is just what you said. You're going to college. That's not the problem. My goal is that you graduate college. And if you love where you are and you are the best version of yourself there, then I believe you'll graduate. So it's a matter of, what does that mean? Does that mean visiting the school or following them on Instagram or figuring out if that is your vibe? But if they're, high achieving kid, but they decide that, a school that's not quite so competitive is where they can be the best version of themselves, it's tough sometimes, but I think that's what our goal is, that they graduate and that they are incredible people who are going on this journey. So I'll also say Bellarmine does a really good job with the senior retreats. I know our kiddo was very torn between Villanova and Santa Clara, and then UW Seattle just March 15th. They don't tell you get in till then. Everything else we knew before Christmas. And he was going to a Catholic school, and then he got into UW right about when, it's not the pilgrimage, it's the senior Magus. So he goes on Magus and had a whole weekend to really just pray, and came back with full clarity. And so I felt like that was really cool thing about Bellarmine. It's just, there's those steps to give them that time for us to take a step back and say, where does God have you where you should be? So, yeah.
Those are such great answers. I think once your students get into several schools, make sure you go to the campus when students are there, so they can get a real flavor of what that school is about and just what it feels like to them. And it's funny, I talk to students every day, and they say, I went to this campus and I just knew. I met the people, or they spend a day or two meeting other students, and it just clicks. So there's so many great schools, and every one of your students will get in to a place that just feels like home to them. And that's a really great feeling as a parent when they reach that realization.
So, as far as visitation, are we supposed to take the kids to actually see the colleges after they get into their full colleges?
That's a great question. That was my follow-up question, if you guys want to take that on. When did you decide to visit colleges, and what's your advice on that? And we can give our perspective on that too.
I think it's it's really up to you as a family, what feels right to you, but what worked for our family is we visited a few colleges. What we did is we kind of visited the colleges in this area just to get a feeling of what it would be like to be on a really large campus like UW, smaller campus like UPS. Not necessarily that they would apply to those schools, but they would get a feeling of what those sizes of schools feel like. And then for our family, what worked was once they were admitted to a school, that's when we would go visit, and the schools generally offer these, Gonzaga offers GEL weekend, which is like a 2-day weekend where you meet other admitted students, and then you get a real feeling of what that student body is going to feel like. But I definitely would not visit a school without students on campus. Like sometimes in the summer you can go visit, it's more convenient, but you won't see students generally on campus. So,
Yeah, I agree. We've spent a decent amount of junior year visiting colleges, but similar idea, trying to visit a large state school in a big city, large state school in a rural town, that they went to University of Oregon, Oregon State, and then smaller schools come in all sizes, right? Helium and UPS are 1,500 to 3,000 students. Seattle University's, what, 9,000, 10,000 students? So you kind of can, you can stay right here and visit schools of those sizes, and then they could come to their counselors and say, I love Seattle U, I just wish it wasn't in Seattle. And they can say, great, I can help find you something that's just like that. So you don't have to go far. We did that in California because my brother lives in LA, so we could visit him, and we visited kind of what you said, the different schools, and we did our spring break visit. So my daughter has a list that she's visited that she liked and didn't like, and then from there I've kind of grabbed a few that I knew were similar, and we'll probably visit if she gets in and thinks they're in her top. But again, waiting until, at this point, we won't visit again until the fall when students are on campus. Now, a lot of schools started mid-August, so if they're on semester schools, they all start mid-August. My child's still at UW, his friends have been home for a month, so, Did you visit?
Yes, and it is best to go when students are there. But I will say, one caveat is that, again, this is just my experience, we're about to do a sprint. Like, they're trying to get their best grades before the end of the school year. And then this summer, we've seen the list of things that they're doing, or maybe they have their marine chemistry, or maybe there's some work, like there's things that they're gonna be doing over the summer, and then they start school, and then you have 2 months until that first deadline is there if you're gonna apply early. Like, that's not a lot of time. So map it out. So I would go, even if nobody's there, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the school. If you don't think you might have time while the kids are in school.
Winter break, semester break.
Yes,
Thanksgiving.
yes,
Our spring break is usually different than college's spring break, so those are
yes. It's often good to visit the school before you apply, because then you can personalize what you're saying in your extra essays and say about why you want to go to this school, like, a tour and seeing the campus will help you do that. Let's see. Oh, another trick. I find those kids often like schools that they do a tour for. So if there's a school that you think that they should be a little more interested in, if you go on a tour, I think that they might be more coerced into liking it.
dropping them off at schools that you want them to go to. It's strategic, I like it. And I would agree, I would echo what they said. I would thank you guys for coming. I would echo going when you can. I don't think there is a necessity or a pressure to do it necessarily before you apply. I think you can explore and see a lot of good examples of colleges locally while your students still figure out what they want in a college. And then once you get accepted, then you can actually go and then help you make those concrete decisions based on the feel, the vibe, and the fit. And then there's also virtual tours. So while you're educating yourself, you can go to collegetours.com, take a lot of virtual tours, or go to that school's website, and they will have student interactions, videos of the campus. The same thing is available in Naviance as well. So that's another way for them to kind of build their expertise around that school without having to necessarily go on campus until they're ready. Great, thank you guys. All right, last question before we get out of here, and then we'll open it up to the room if you guys have questions for all of us. But how did you help your students stay motivated when things felt overwhelming? As you mentioned, fall of senior year is a very busy time. Students are balancing their senior classes as well as applications. And this happens day one when we start a fall semester. So managing that time period, what did you guys find that was helpful in helping your students stay focused?
I mean, I would just say, just speak love into their ears. There's a lot of noise that's going on. There's a lot of noise and like, here's how you get into the school. This is what I did, etc. That they're looking at on social media. But just speak love into their ears that yes, there is a good school for you. There is a plan for you. Like it's going to happen. Just work your hardest and then let it go. Like let the plan just unfold. And I just want to say, like, I'd be happy to chit chat with anybody or just commiserate through this process, especially if it's your first. It was a big deal and a big change for our family. But I feel like we're about to start this sprint, and then you keep going until all the applications are due by January 15th, and you have a little bit of waiting time, and then maybe like with our first, you had to switch gears or change plans. And then you're getting ready for graduation, and then they graduate, and then you're buying stuff for their dorm, and then you drop them off, and then it's like, oh, then it's like, oh, it's calm, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, our family just changed. Like we don't have, our dynamic is different. Like we're missing one of our children, which is also just to say, like, savor this last year that we have together, and savor the final games, and savor homecoming and all that kind of stuff, while we're doing this, supporting them in their college journey.
Yeah, I can say that the way I supported my son will not be the same with my daughter because they're just such different kids. So I haven't quite figured out the answer to that question. With Santiago, our meetings on Sundays, I literally would throw things in like, anything you want at the grocery store this week, or what can I do? Like just other questions, like how I could help him in that way. Do you have any friends over? Do you want me to get pizza? Like what's your plan for the week? With her, she's involved in so much. I think some of it's just letting her continue to doing homecoming and doing the things and speak love into just all those activities, because like you said, it's just going to be, it goes fast. So my hope is that we get a lot done this summer, that she just dials it in so that she can have fun in the fall, but that might be a high.
To relieve stress when they get overwhelmed, I would say do whatever you do as a family that's just fun. Take a day and go for a hike. Just do something completely different than talking about colleges and talking about test scores and talking about grades. And do something that's just without the phone, without social media, and just have a good time as a family, because, as you said, in a year, your life is going to be very different. And it's a pretty bittersweet summer, that summer after senior year. And I mean, if this is your first child going off to college, it really is powerful, that summer. So just cherish this year, take time as a family, and spend precious time together doing something fun.
And we have seen that our kids can present in a lot of different ways. And so sometimes they may not want to talk about this. They might seem overly enthused, and they might seem really withdrawn. It's because those same fears and concerns you guys are feeling, they're feeling it too. And they might not be able to express it, but they feel it. And so I think definitely checking in with them, seeing where they're at, and encouraging them to just be open and honest about where they're feeling these pressures or worries or concerns, because this environment can be pretty competitive too. And they're listening to their peers, they're listening to their friends on what they're saying they're applying to and what they're doing. And there is a little bit of competitive nature that can happen. So I think the best you can do is help your students kind of resolve that and really help them stay focused on what's going to be best for them, not about what other people are doing. Okay?
I would also just add that it's totally normal for them to kind of be jerks right now. Like, it's called soiling the nest. You can look it up. They're trying to make it easier for themselves to leave you behind by creating tension in your relationship. So it's very normal, it's appropriate, it's still not very fun to parent, I imagine. So if that's coming up for you as well, just know that that's a developmentally appropriate choice that they're making.
Love them anyway.
Love them anyway.
Can we give a round of applause to our parent panel? Thank you guys so much. So that does conclude our Rising Senior Parent Night for this evening. We thank you guys all for attending. If you wouldn't mind, we would be so happy if you could complete our survey. This really does help guide these presentations so we know what you guys want to know, what is important to you, so that we can make sure that we're offering that and for their future families.